So now a good half of the US population felt what it's like to have their point of view dismissed by big tech, and this half is plenty angry. But this goes even deeper because most people have not realized what we've done with only two companies making phone software and one company the dominant social platform and a main source of news for many. Plus, we have said we have nothing to hide. So what if we let them know everything about us? If you think the consequences of what happened this past week with big tech censorship is bad, there's more. I will tell you some chilling facts that will make you understand that it is time to rethink our relationship with Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, MAGA FT. You called me a tinfoil hat before, right? Now start listening to real advice to prevent a complete loss of freedom. Free yourself from the shackles of these powerful forces. How can we defang these giants? I am such a small voice speaking here and mostly ignored, but many of you are realizing I was right, and we can only make the difference if we collectively understand how privacy is extremely important. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this big tech morass and how we respond. I'm on the video platform Odyssey.com where I post ahead of YouTube. More than ever, I always need to make sure I have a backup plan in case I get deplatformed, so please make sure to join me there. You can follow me there using the link in the description. You all need a VPN to protect your privacy. I run my own VPN service for those that want to be on the down low, and it's Byte VPN. It comes with Tor, Pi-hole for ad blocking, and servers worldwide. It is also preset to work with my VPN plus Tor Brax router. Up your privacy game with these tools. Your purchase of my privacy product supports this channel, and it's so appreciated. See the description for more info. What happened last week is incredibly shocking. A few people controlling the big tech giants can basically decide who gets to speak and who doesn't. A few billionaires. It's scary when non-elected parties, in this case MAGA FT, has so much power that they can actually cut out an elected official. So they're more powerful than the US government. Repeatedly, they've cut out platforms where a big chunk of the population converge as a community. If that's not a demonstration of raw power, I don't know what is. If you think that's all they can do, we'll get deeper into this, but it depends if you want the blue pill or the red pill. Some of you don't want to hear this, so you will want to unsubscribe. The fact of the matter is that my channel has been focused on preventing the control that centralized tech is capable of. And if this doesn't suit your political purpose, then even though this isn't even a political issue, then leave, because obviously my efforts to defend you will not make sense anyway. Let's get started. I want to present to you 3 points that highlight the capabilities of big tech. Number 1, information flow is now centralized. Today, MAGA FT controls the vast majority of information flow and flow of ideas in the whole world. They're so powerful that they're global and above governments. In fact, governments like the Chinese Communist Party have clearly understood this and have blocked the presence of MAGA FT in China. So the CCP's equivalent of big tech is actually controlled by the CCP. But the rest of the world was unprepared for this, and many of us didn't even realize what they were capable of, mostly because the technology wasn't understood. Big tech is now a choke point of information flow in the entire world. Basically, a handful of billionaires have the ability to filter what we can think. They can decide the parameters of acceptable thought and basically marginalize everything else. Even more profound than marginalized, they can hide those other opinions so you don't see them. This is called shadow banning. Some people argue they're private companies. They can ban whoever they want. I have no problem with that in principle. The problem is that people really haven't trusted all their information source to be from Apple and Google. That argument is okay to many because it suits their current views. But someday, that argument will be used when it doesn't suit their views, and it will be too late. Billions and billions of phones controlled by two companies, and then most of the world reliant on Facebook for their social media. So because of convenience and laziness, we as a group have allowed these companies to control us. What people have not realized is that it isn't just about censorship. These platforms are also able to amplify messages they want amplified and hide or shadow ban ideas they don't want. Sometimes it's so subtle, like privacy. This is not a political topic, yet any efforts to discuss privacy will be met with minimization because it hurts them. Over the years, the term Big Brother was frequently used as a reason not to get chipped. Big Brother, of course, is the antagonist in the book 1984 by George Orwell. Up to even the 90s, the suggestion of getting national IDs in the US was suggested as being Big Brother-like. Of course, now in 2021, I ask you, what happened to that fear? Why has the message changed? Now we carry a phone 24/7, which is in fact a chipped identity. We're being forced to carry chipped driver's licenses and no one complains. Some people have willingly injected themselves with RFID chips. How did this attitude change overnight? Was this planned out? Today, if I call big tech Big Brother, I'm labeled as a tinfoil hat. Using the term tinfoil hat is a surefire way to minimize what I say. I'm given the image as being some sort of non-mainstream loony by being labeled as a tinfoil hat Luddite living in a cave. Yet the reality is that I'm a chief software architect, I studied medicine, I build enterprise systems, and I'm about as factual as can be with what I talk about. And here's an example of a non-political topic that would benefit big tech. What about social media scores? I'm sure Facebook would love to execute that idea. Each human being can get a permanent social media score so our behavior in society can be controlled. Now, that is not a political topic at all, really. But what if they push this? What if all the press promotes all the benefits of social media scores as they do in China, and you never hear the opposite? Scores can be adjusted to favor those in the mainstream. So if your ideas are characterized as extreme, then your score is reduced. Except, who gets to decide what is mainstream? Social media scores can be used to control behavior. Who cares? Let's hide that discussion from the populace. Controlling social scores is good for society. Well, folks, we as a group have empowered big tech to execute policies like this, and we will have no choice. Number 2, information about you has been collected. The next problem in this environment we find ourselves in is that those who haven't been listening to me have actually given all their information to Google, Apple, Facebook, and have said, "Who cares? I have nothing to hide." This is past tense, folks. For the majority, your information has already been collected. Unfortunately, the majority of people don't understand the mantra, information is power. They don't have any conception of they don't have any conception of how data is collected in big data databases, and that this information was somehow used by Cambridge Analytica to try to influence us. Just because Cambridge Analytica is shut down doesn't mean the collection of your information stopped. Facebook has amassed crowdsourced information about the details of your lives and your contacts. They know your every thought. They know what you will be thinking. They know every location you've been in. They know every website you visit. They know what you like to eat. They know what issues you support or don't support. They know how you will vote. They know if you should be marginalized because you don't fit into their vision of acceptable behavior in this world. Cambridge Analytica used to call the information they had as micro-targeting, which is just a fancy way of saying they want to manipulate the message for you as an individual. You see, if someone knows what you think, someone can alter what you see and alter the opinion so you can only see one side. I've told you the story of my youth when I lived in a dictatorship country. I remember that if someone was in the opposition group, to the dictator, first he silenced the opposition by locking them up, which of course is in effect censoring their speech. They can't talk in jail. Then every day the government-controlled press would then repeatedly attack the opposing viewpoint, and no counter-argument was allowed. Now try this for a decade and see what happens. This is no different from what an autocratic government did in the Soviet Union or Communist China. If you block an opposing view from even appearing, you will in fact make the people believe that the opposing idea is false. So here in big tech, a handful of people decide what you should hear. And if the idea endangers them in some way, then the idea has to be wiped out completely. Number 3, information be controlled by AI to the individual level. Many people are so naive as to think that decisions made by big tech are just casual decisions. But anyone who has worked in a corporate environment understands that the activities of a company are tailored to match a long-term business plan. You have to understand that a sophisticated business doesn't do anything in a casual way, especially not trillion-dollar companies. They have Harvard-educated MBAs mapping out a long-term direction. There are many things these tech companies give you hints about. One of them is a talk about the singularity. The singularity is the predicted point in time when the machines will be smarter than people, Skynet. This topic is frequently mentioned by Zuckerberg, Google, and even Elon Musk. Strangely, the guy that wrote the book about the singularity is Ray Kurzweil, who is now at Google. And yes, all these companies from Amazon to Tesla are focused on artificial intelligence or AI. And they realize that at some point the machines will, according to Zuckerberg and Google, reach this point possibly in the next 20 years. So if we are acknowledging that technology is moving so fast that computers will be smarter than people, what happens when the computers know every one of you? What if that same computer is not just smarter, but has a profile of your thoughts and activities? What if you encounter the AI in business, at a border, with a robotic policeman, with an AI human resources department? What happens if the machine judges you? Let me talk about what is already happening today. It's called the cancel culture. If one group determines that you don't fit the norms of what is acceptable, then you will be canceled. You will be cut out. This is happening today in social media platforms. What if this were done by AI? Oh, those who push cancel culture don't have any idea of what it's like when it's used against them. Well, in case you think I'm talking theory here, there's an alphabet project that's been around called Jigsaw. It's at jigsaw.google.com. The point of the Jigsaw AI supposedly was to prevent fake news, but the companies like Jigsaw and another company called Palantir were using the collected data aggressively. I call them mercenary data companies. They've gone beyond harvesting the data. They now find ways to make the data alter human behavior. At one point, they used it to change the appearance of the internet for a certain population. In one particular use, they modified Google search so that the results were targeted to prevent searching of extremist content by a certain population. This was called the Redirect Project. But I recall when they called this the Abdullah Project, so you can get the meaning of who their target was then. I recall this kind of project was used against Muslims in the UK by GCHQ to alter the internet for that group. I don't know if they use Jigsaw or some three-letter agency version of the same thing. Now at this point, the idea of manipulating the internet for the greater good seems okay as long as you are not in the disenfranchised group. The problem is that this technology has no limit. It can be used against anyone, against any group, against even 50% of the population. The technology shows you that based on what they know about you, they can basically give you this information. Basically, they have the power to manipulate the data to fit what you're thinking and change your mind based on a monopoly of information. They have the power to censor not just at the collective group like the right or the left, but the power to censor any idea at the individual level. You have nothing to hide? Don't worry. You serve a purpose. You are a cog in the machine. You have a usable vote and a usable voice for them. Let me summarize what I've just said here. Number one, information flow is now centralized. Number two, information about you has been collected. Number three, information can be controlled by AI to the individual level. Do you understand how deep this rabbit hole is? If a Google or Facebook is able to target you at the thought level, do you not think they can influence any idea? Many have posted on my comments, I have nothing to hide. I don't do anything. I'm boring. Convenience is more important. It's a fair exchange, my data for their free services. Is this truly a fair trade? You basically ceded control of our future and our choices to those billionaires that control the AI. They will be able to control mass opinions by targeting each one of us with individual messages. If you think what has happened with big tech censorship is bad, it will get worse. So how do we counter this? The answer, folks, is the whole point of this channel. Privacy. Information is power. Deny them the information and you deny them the power. In my videos, I talk about using phones that do not give Google data. I call them the Google phones. Drop your Apple and Google spy devices. Move on. I talk about how Google and Facebook collect your internet activity using something called browser fingerprinting. You can evade that. I talk about devices that emit no identity where your thoughts cannot be connected to an individual. That is called device fingerprinting. You can avoid that. I talk about why you shouldn't use speech-to-text AI because you're actually sending Apple, Google, Amazon your every thought. I talk about why you need to completely eliminate Facebook because they not only have your thoughts, but have a clearly crowdsourced verified identity to match. I talk about IP addresses, phone numbers, and email that can be used to create a uniquely identifiable tag to us. I talk about all these techniques with one goal: remove our identity from what we do on the internet. Without an identity, the data collected becomes meaningless and cannot be indexed. It prevents personal targeting. It prevents a jigsaw profiling or Palantir profiling. Right now, 99.9% of you can be personally targeted. Those who have listened to me are the rebellion. We're invisible to the AI. We get to control them instead of them controlling us. What they know about us is disinformation. What big tech wants is for us to be so reliant on their infrastructure that we cannot operate off the grid. For example, they want to make sure that every job applicant uses LinkedIn. This ensures that every person seeking employment has an online identity that can be tracked for the rest of your life. Then we will be so immersed in the mobile phones and the apps that in the future you will actually be shunned for not being on the grid. That's part of the approach, folks, because at the moment, very few listen to me. It's time to build this privacy movement. Privacy means we get to keep the power and not hand it to them on a silver platter. Privacy means we get to keep them under control. But it will only happen if more of us believe and understand this. I hope the recent events will finally wake you all up that things are not what they appear. I am such a scary concept to big tech that I'm always at risk for being shut down on YouTube if I don't conform to what's allowable criticism of big tech. Back when I used to broadcast on Periscope, a watcher from Facebook was always there to listen to me and counter anything I said about Facebook, which I've always said is the most evil company in the world. Then someone would report what I said to Zuckerberg himself. Anyway, I have to watch what I say so I can talk to all of you. Understand that what I've said here is toned down. So we'll say this quietly. Keep your internet privacy and you will keep your freedom. The way to defend against this growing threat is by spreading the idea of privacy. The more people withhold their data from big tech, the weaker they will be. And the algorithm decides who gets to see these ideas. So while it's letting me, let's help the algorithm. Please subscribe and slam on that notification bell. Let YouTube see the importance of what we believe. In the description of the video, you will see a link to my store on Brax.me where I have products like the Google phones, VPNs, and my Brax router product. Join us on Brax.me so you can check it out. Brax.me is my own app and we have a good-sized community there talking about privacy issues. See you next time.